Hi. We're now going to pick up on page 10. We're going to start in the second section of chapter 1, and it is called Gods of Your World. Okay. Appendix B of the Player's Handbook presents a number of pantheons, loose groupings of deities not united by a single doctrine or philosophy. For use in your game, including the gods of established D&D worlds and fantasy historical pantheons, you can adopt one of these pantheons for your campaign, or pick and choose deities and ideas from them as you please. See a sample pantheon in this section, for example. As far as the game's rules are concerned, it doesn't matter if your world has hundreds of deities or a church devoted to a single god. In rules terms, clerics choose domains, not deities, so your world can associate domains with deities in any way you choose. Okay, the first subheading of Gods of Your World is Loose Pantheons. Most D&D worlds have a loose pantheon of gods. A multitude of deities rule the various aspects of existence, variously cooperating with and competing against one another to administer the affairs of the universe. People gather in public shrines to worship gods of life and wisdom, or meet in hidden places to venerate gods of deception or destruction. Each deity in a pantheon has a portfolio, and is responsible for advancing that portfolio. In the Greyhawk setting, Hieronius is a god of valor, who calls clerics and paladins to his service and encourages them to spread the ideals of honorable warfare, chivalry, and justice in society. Even in the midst of his everlasting war with his brother Hextor, god of war and tyranny, Hieronius promotes his own portfolio, war fought nobly and in the cause of justice. People in most D&D worlds are polytheistic, honoring deities of their own and acknowledging pantheons of other cultures. Individuals pay homage to various gods regardless of alignment. In the Forgotten Realms, a person might propitiate Umberlee before setting out to sea, join a communal feast to celebrate Chontia at harvest time, and pray to Malar before going hunting. Some individuals feel a calling to a particular deity's service and claim that god as a patron. Particularly devoted individuals become priests by setting up a shrine or helping to staff a holy site. Much more rarely, those who feel such a calling become clerics or paladins, invested with the responsibility of true divine power. Shrines and temples serve as community gathering points for religious rites and festivals. Priests at such sites relate stories of the gods, teach the ethics of their patron deities, offer advice and blessings, perform religious rites, and provide training and activities their deities favor. Cities and large towns can host several temples dedicated to individual gods important to the community, while smaller settlements might have a single shrine devoted to any gods the locals revere. To quickly build a pantheon for your world, create a single god for each of the 8 domains available to clerics: death, knowledge, life, light, nature, tempest, trickery, and war. You can invent names and personalities for these deities or borrow deities from other pantheons. This approach gives you a small pantheon that covers the most significant aspects of existence, and it's easy enough to extrapolate other areas of life each deity controls. The god of knowledge, for example, might also be patron of magic and prophecy, while the god of light could be the sun god and the god of time. Okay, so the example table that they give are Dawn War deities. So we have Asmodeus, a god of tyranny, his alignment's lawful evil, suggested domains, trickery. His symbol is 3 triangles in type formation. Avandra, goddess of change and luck, chaotic good, trickery, 3 stacked wavy lines. Bahamut, god of justice and nobility, lawful good, suggested domains, life and war. Dragon's head in profile facing left. Bane, god of war and conquest, lawful evil, war. Claw with 3 talons pointing down. Corellon, god of magic and the arts, chaotic good. Domain is light, 8-pointed star is the symbol. Erithis, goddess of civilization and invention, lawful neutral. Knowledge is the domain, upper half of a clockwork gear is the symbol. Grumsh, a god of destruction, chaotic evil. The domain is tempest and war. Triangular eye with bony protrusions is the symbol. Eun, goddess of knowledge, they're neutral, is the alignment. Knowledge is the suggested domain, crook shaped like a stylized eye. Cord, god of strength and storms, chaotic neutral. Tempest is the domain, sword with a lightning bolt across the guard. Lolth, goddess of spiders and lies, chaotic evil. Trickery, 8-pointed star with a web motif. Melora, goddess of wilderness and the sea, neutral. Nature, tempest, wave-like swirl. Moradin, god of creation, lawful good. Knowledge, war, flaming anvil. Pelor, god of the sun and agriculture, neutral good, life and light. Circle with 6 outwardly radiating points. Raven Queen, goddess of death, lawful neutral. Life, death, raven's head and profile facing left. Sehanine, goddess of the moon, chaotic good. Trickery, crescent moon. Tharizdun, god of madness, chaotic evil. Trickery, jagged counterclockwise spiral. Tiamat, goddess of wealth, greed, and vengeance, lawful evil. Trickery, war, 5-pointed star with curved points. Torog, god of the Underdark, neutral evil. Death is the domain. T, attached to a circular shackle. Vecna, god of evil secrets, neutral evil. Death and knowledge are the domains, partially shattered one-eyed skull. And Zahir, god of darkness and poison, chaotic evil. Trickery and death of the domain, snake in the shape of a dagger. Okay, so that was the sample. So they're going to dive into the sample pantheon as the next subheading. A sample pantheon. The Pantheon of the Dawn War is an example of a pantheon assembled from mostly pre-existing elements to suit the needs of a particular campaign. This is the default pantheon in the 4th edition Player's Handbook in 2008. The pantheon is summarized in the Dawn War deities table. This pantheon draws in several non-human deities and establishes them as universal gods. These gods include Bahamut, Corellon, Grumsh, Lolth, Moradin, Sehanine, and Tiamat. Humans worship Moradin and Corellon as gods of their respective portfolios rather than as racial deities. The pantheon also includes the archdevil Asmodeus as god of domination and tyranny. Several of the gods are drawn from other pantheons, sometimes with new names for the gods. Bane comes from the Forgotten Realms. From Greyhawk come Kord, Pelor, Tharizdun, and Vecna. From the Greek pantheon come Athena, renamed Erithis, and Tyche, renamed Avandra, though both are altered. Set, renamed Zahir, comes from the Egyptian pantheon. The Raven Queen is akin to the Norse pantheon's Hel, and Greyhawk's Ouijas. That leaves 3 gods created from scratch, Eun, Melora, and Torog. I think that's pretty cool. Other religious systems. In your campaign, you can create pantheons of gods who are closely linked in a single religion, monotheistic religions, worship of a single deity, dualistic systems, centered on 2 opposing deities or forces, mystery cults, involving personal devotion to a single deity, usually as part of a pantheon system, animistic religions, revering the spirits inherent in nature, or even forces and philosophies that don't center on deities. Okay? The next subheading is tight pantheons. So we went through loose pantheons, and we're gonna talk about tight pantheons. In contrast to a loose pantheon, a tight pantheon focuses on a single religion whose teachings and edicts embrace a small group of deities. Followers of a tight pantheon might favor one of its member deities over another, but they respect all the deities and honor them with sacrifices and prayer as appropriate. The key trait to a tight pantheon is that its worshippers embrace a single ethos or dogma that includes all the deities. The gods of the tight pantheon work as one to protect and guide their followers. You can think of a tight pantheon as similar to a family. 1 or 2 deities who lead the pantheon serve as parent figures, with the rest serving as patrons of important aspects of the culture that worships the pantheon. A single temple honors all members of the pantheon. Most tight pantheons have 1 or more aberrant gods, deities whose worship isn't sanctioned by the priests of the pantheon as a whole. These are usually evil deities and enemies of the pantheon, such as the Greek Titans. These deities have cults of their own, attracting social outcasts and villains to their worship. These cults resemble mystery cults. Their members strictly devoted to their single god, though even members of aberrant cults pay lip service in the temples of the tight pantheon. The Norse deities serve as an example of a tight pantheon. Odin is the pantheon's leader and father figure. Deities such as Thor, Tyr, and Freya embody important aspects of Norse culture. Meanwhile, Loki and his devotees lurk in the shadows, sometimes aiding the other deities and sometimes working against them with the pantheon's enemies. Okay? Mystery cults. A mystery cult is a secretive religious organization based on a ritual of initiation, in which the initiate is mystically identified with a god or a handful of related gods. Mystery cults are intensely personal, concerned with the initiate's relationship with the divine. Sometimes a mystery cult is a type of worship. Within a pantheon. It acknowledges the myths and rituals of the pantheon, but presents its own myths and rites as primary. For instance, a secretive order of monks might immerse themselves in a mythical relationship to a god who is part of a broadly worshipped pantheon. A mystery cult emphasizes the history of its god, which is symbolically reenacted in its initiation ritual. The foundation myth of a mystery cult is usually simple and often involves a god's death and rising or a journey to the underworld and a return. Mystery cults often revere sun and moon deities and agricultural deities, gods whose portfolios reflect the cycles of nature. Okay, we've got this subheading called Divine Rank. The divine beings of the multiverse are often categorized according to their cosmic power. Some gods are worshipped on multiple worlds and have a different rank on each world depending on their influence there. So we've got greater deities. Greater deities are beyond mortal understanding. They can't be summoned, and they are almost always removed from direct involvement in mortal affairs. On very rare occasions, they manifest avatars similar to lesser deities, but slaying a greater god's avatar has no effect on the god itself. Okay, lesser deities. Lesser deities are embodied somewhere in the planes. Some lesser deities live in the material plane, as does the unicorn goddess Luru of the Forgotten Realms and the titanic shark god Sekula, revered by the Saugin. Others live on the outer planes, as Lolth does in the Abyss. Such deities can be encountered by mortals. Okay, and then we have quasi-deities. Quasi-deities have a divine origin, but they don't hear or answer prayers, grant spells to clerics, or control aspects of mortal life. They are still immensely powerful beings, and in theory, they could ascend to godhood if they amassed enough worshippers. Quasi-deities fall into three subcategories: demigods, titans, and vestiges. Okay, let's go through those three categories. Demigods. Demigods are born from the union of a deity and a mortal being. They have some divine attributes, but their mortal parentage makes them the weakest quasi-deities. Okay, titans. Titans are the divine creations of deities. They might be birthed from the union of two deities, manufactured on a divine forge, born from the blood spilled by a god, or otherwise brought about through divine will or substance. Vestiges. Vestiges are deities who have lost nearly all their worshippers and are considered dead from a mortal perspective. Esoteric rituals can sometimes contact these beings and draw on their latent power. Okay, I actually jumped into that subsection and the mystery cult section was not done. So mystery cult, I'll pick up with that last sentence in mystery cults. Mystery cults often revere sun and moon deities and agricultural deities, gods whose portfolios reflect the cycles of nature. The cult's ritual of initiation follows the pattern of its foundation myth. Neophytes retrace the god's footsteps in order to share the god's ultimate fate. In the case of dying and rising gods, the symbolic death of the initiate represents the idea of death to the old life and rebirth into a transformed existence. Initiates are born into a new life, remaining in the world of mortal affairs, but feeling elevated to a higher sphere. The initiate is promised a place in the god's realm after death, but also experiences new meaning in life. Okay, we've got another subheading called monotheism. Okay, so monotheism. Monotheistic religions revere only one deity, and in some cases, deny the existence of any other deity. If you introduce a monotheistic religion into your campaign, you need to decide whether other gods exist. Even if they don't, other religions can exist side by side with the monotheistic religion. If these religions have clerics with spellcasting ability, their spells might be powered by the one true deity, by lesser spirits who aren't deities, possibly including powerful aberrations, celestials, fae, fiends, or elementals, or simply by their faith. The deity of a monotheistic religion has an extensive portfolio and is portrayed as the creator of everything, in control of everything, and concerned with every aspect of existence. Thus, a worshipper of this god offers prayers and sacrifices to the same god, regardless of what aspect of life is in need of divine assistance. Whether marching into war, setting off on a journey, or hoping to win someone's affections, the worshipper prays to the same god. Some monotheistic religions describe different aspects of their deity. A single god appears in different aspects as the creator and the destroyer, and the clerics of that god focus on one aspect or the other, determining their domain access and possibly even their alignment on that basis. A cleric who venerates the destroyer aspect chooses the tempest or war domain, while one who worships a creator aspect chooses the life or nature domains. In some monotheistic religions, clerics group themselves into distinct religious orders to differentiate clerics who choose different domains. Okay? Seems straightforward, I think. All right. Dualism. A dualistic religion views the world as the stage for a conflict between two diametrically opposed deities or divine forces. Most often, the opposed forces are good and evil, or opposed deities representing those forces. In some pantheons, the forces or deities of law and chaos are the fundamental opposites in a dualistic system. Life and death, light and darkness, matter and spirit, body and mind, health and illness, purity and defilement, positive energy and negative energy. The D&D universe is full of polar opposites that could serve as the foundation for a dualistic religion. Whatever the terms in which the dualism is expressed, half of the pair is usually believed to be good, beneficial, desirable, or holy, while the other half is considered bad, if not explicitly evil. If the fundamental conflict in a religion is expressed as the opposition between matter and spirit, the followers of that religion believe that one of the two, usually matter, is evil and the other, spirit, is good, and so seek to liberate their spirits from this material world and its evils through asceticism and contemplation. Rare dualistic systems believe that the two opposing forces must remain in balance, always pulling away from each other, but remaining bound together in creative tension. In a cosmology defined by an eternal conflict between good and evil, mortals are expected to take sides. The majority of those who follow a dualistic religion worship the deity or force identified as good. Worshippers of the good deity trust themselves to that god's power to protect them from the evil deity's minions. Because the evil deity in such a religion is usually the source of everything that is detrimental to existence, only the perverse and depraved worship this god. Monsters and fiends serve it, as do certain secretive cults. The myths of a dualistic religion usually predict that the good deity will triumph in an apocalyptic battle, but the forces of evil believe that the outcome of that battle isn't predetermined and work to promote their deity's victory. Deities in a dualistic system maintain large portfolios. All aspects of existence reflect the dualistic struggle, and therefore all things can fall on one side or the other of the conflict. Agriculture, mercy, the sky, medicine, and poetry reside in the portfolio of the good deity, and famine, hatred, disease, and war belong to the evil deity. Okay, the next subheading, animism. Animism is the belief that spirits inhabit every part of the natural world. In an animistic worldview, everything has a spirit, from the grandest mountain to the lowliest rock, from the great ocean to a babbling brook, from the sun and moon to a fighter's ancestral sword. All these objects and the spirits that inhabit them are sentient, though some are more aware, alert, and intelligent than others. The most powerful spirits might even be considered deities. All are worthy of respect, if not veneration. Animists don't typically pay allegiance to one spirit over the others. Instead, they offer prayers and sacrifices to different spirits at different times, as appropriate to the situation. A pious character might make daily prayers and offerings to ancestor spirits and the spirits of the house, regular petitions to important spirits such as the seven fortunes of good luck, occasional sacrifices of incense to location spirits such as the spirit of a forest, and sporadic prayers to a host of other spirits as well. An animistic religion is very tolerant. Most spirits don't care to whom a character also offers sacrifices, as long as they receive the sacrifices and respect they are due. As new religions spread through animist lands, those religions typically win adherents, but not converts. People incorporate new spirits and deities into their prayers without displacing the old ones. Contemplatives and scholars adopt complex philosophical systems and practices without changing their belief in and respect for the spirits they already venerate. Animism functions as a large, tight pantheon. Animist clerics serve the pantheon as a whole, and so can choose any domain representing a favorite spirit for that cleric. Okay, the next subheading, forces and philosophies. Not all divine powers need to be derived from deities. In some campaigns, believers hold enough conviction in their ideas about the universe that they gain magical power from that conviction. In other campaigns, impersonal forces of nature or magic replace the gods by granting power to mortals attuned to them. Just as druids and rangers can gain their spell ability from the force of nature rather than from a specific nature deity, some clerics devote themselves to ideals rather than to a god. Paladins might serve a philosophy of justice and chivalry rather than a specific deity. Forces and philosophies aren't worshipped. They aren't beings that can hear and respond to prayers or accept sacrifices. Devotion to a philosophy or force isn't necessarily exclusive of service to a deity. A person can be devoted to the philosophy of good and offer worship to various good deities or revere the force of nature and also pay homage to the gods of nature, who might be seen as personal manifestations of an impersonal force. In a world that includes deities with demonstrable power through their clerics, it's unusual for a philosophy to deny the existence of deities, although a common philosophical belief states that the deities are more like mortals than they would have mortals believe. According to such philosophies, the gods aren't truly immortal, just very long-lived, and mortals can attain divinity. In fact, ascending to godhood is the ultimate goal of some philosophies. The power of a philosophy stems from the belief that mortals invest in it. A philosophy that only one person believes isn't strong enough, or a philosophy that only one person believes in isn't strong enough to bestow magical power on that person. Okay? And we're in the last subheading of this section, humanoids and the gods. Almost done. Hang in there. When it comes to the gods, humans exhibit a far wider range of beliefs and institutions than other races do. In many D&D settings, orcs, elves, dwarves, goblins, and other humanoids have tight pantheons. It is expected that an orc will worship Grumsh or one of a handful of subordinate deities. In comparison, humanity embraces a staggering variety of deities. Each human culture might have its own array of gods. In most D&D settings, there is no single god that can claim to have created humanity. Thus, the human proclivity for building institutions extends to religion. A single charismatic prophet can convert an entire kingdom to the worship of a new god. With that prophet's death, the religion might wax or wane, or the prophet's followers might turn against one another and found several competing religions. In comparison, religion in Dwarven society is set in stone. The dwarves of the Forgotten Realms identify Moradin as their creator. While individual dwarves might follow other gods as a culture, the dwarves are pledged to Moradin and the pantheon he leads. His teachings and magic are so thoroughly ingrained in Dwarven culture that it would take a cataclysmic shift to replace him. With that in mind, consider the role of the gods in your world and their ties to different humanoid races. Does each race have a creator god? How does that god shape the race's culture? Are other folk free of such divine ties and free to worship as they wish? Has a race turned against the god that created it? Has a new race appeared, created by a god within the past few years? A deity might also have ties to a kingdom, noble line, or other cultural institution. With the death of the emperor, a new ruler might be selected by divine portents, sent by the deity who protected the empire in its earliest days. In such a land, the worship of other gods might be outlawed or tightly controlled. Finally, consider the difference between gods who are tied to specific humanoid races and gods with more diverse followers. Do the races with their own pantheons enjoy a place of privilege in your world, with their gods taking an active role in their affairs? Are the other races ignored by the gods, or are those races the deciding factor that can tilt the balance of power in favor of one god or another? Okay, we just finished that section. See you next time. We'll actually be reading something else. I don't know what yet. All right, bye.